Practically the entire Benson City Council is targeted for recall because opponents to the aluminum dynamics plant say there was no transparency over the issue. They're pushing back. Let's go. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jeff Oldfather, your host for this episode of the podcast Southwest of Center. This is an episode where we're going to look at the Benson City Council recall through the eyes of one of those being targeted. In fact, I would say he is the most targeted by those opposed to the aluminum dynamics plant. That is Darren Hayes. And Darren, you are serving your first term. You're 1 year in. You took the seat. You went onto the council last January. So
yes.
All right. First term and already the target of a recall.
I know, right?
Yeah. So it seems to me we're going to jump right into it, and then we'll come back and we'll get some of your background, okay?
Okay, it sounds good.
But the biggest issue, Darren, seems to be that opponents, those opposed to the construction of the aluminum dynamics plant, say there was no transparency, not enough transparency, and that in some cases, the city council tried to hide what was going on. All these accusations being made. How do you respond?
That's
well.
false.
Let me just ask you straight on. Do you think there was enough transparency?
Yes, according to the policies and the laws that set up for open meeting.
All right, explain that.
Well, the posting, as I was talking to our lawyer, Paul, the posting was done on city chambers and within the local newspaper.
More than a year ago.
Yes.
The initial posting.
Yes.
And are we now, there was a planning and zoning process too. Are you referring to that?
Yes. They're the ones who I believe okayed the CUP, the conditional use permit.
Right.
And so that was posted, the meeting about that was posted according to the law.
But what has happened in the year since you took office?
Oh, well, it was in the first month that I was there, we started getting people coming up to do the public call.
Yeah, call to the public.
Mm-hmm. And I remember Mrs. Cousins and Mr. Sprinkle first talking about the plant. And
opposed to it?
Yes. Mrs. Cousins, a part-time resident, as she claimed, and Mr. Sprinkles from St. David were the first ones to come in and talk about how they don't want the plant there.
So you were on the council when you started taking input from residents?
Yes.
And that grew?
Yes, it did.
So talk to that.
Well, as more meetings went on, more call to the publics were happening and more people were talking about it. Not familiar with what was going on, I decided I was going to start to research on my own. And I started finding facts and figures that were inconsistent with what was being put out there.
Give me one example. Say emissions, because the issue of emissions has been, well, let's just say not explained by the opposition quite correctly.
Well, I believe they were saying 100 tons of aluminum dust was going to be falling annually. And that's the potential to emit, but it's not the actuality of it. Not with the scrubbers and everything they have within the cooling towers.
Right. And I think I need to explain something to people right now, and that is that the way these processes go, they are sometimes, they have to say what the plant is capable of producing, but that doesn't mean that's what's going to be emitted. Mm-hmm. Now, the aluminum dynamics facility, they're required to have scrubbers to pull those particulates out of the air, out of the emissions. Mm-hmm. And they're required to have monitoring by ADEQ once a year. They're going to do it once a quarter, and they're going to be very transparent about what they find. So they're going above and beyond, I think. But let's get back to the issue of people that called the public and people who were opposed. Were they given a fair hearing? In other words, do you think they had the opportunity to speak out against the plant and the council listened?
Absolutely, yes. Every meeting we had called the public, there were people to sit there and talk about their desire to not have the plant in there.
Okay, so what could the council have done at any point in the past year?
There's nothing the council could have done because the rule of law was followed. And
Explain that.
well, posting the way they did, the city council doesn't have a say, yes or no, in having a business come to town or not. So,
Well, what you're saying is the council can't say, we don't like you, so we're not going to have you.
correct,
All right.
correct.
What would you say to people when they say there was not enough transparency, that perhaps the council should have done more to listen to their concerns? Let's take them one at a time. Not enough transparency. You feel there was.
Yes,
You say you didn't respond because what, you were concerned about legal ramifications, or
no, at first is because I didn't respond because I wasn't familiar enough with the plant to give a well thought out, answer.
do you feel you're familiar enough with the issues and with the plant now that if you were to talk to someone who's opposed, you could lay out your case succinctly and clearly?
Yes, I could now.
Well, lay out your case.
I can't because we're within that hearing. So the lawsuit.
Yeah, the
that's
lawsuit,
happening today.
right? Yeah, so you can't. Well, today being Monday, this is not going to air today.
Mm-hmm.
Say a week from now, what do you think? You going to be able to speak to it?
I can, but on the same token, everybody who's tried to bring the actual figures to this group were met with hostilities.
Yeah, I know that. I know. I've had people. Well, I've had one person call and say, "We know where you live," and that's happened twice now. And I'm like, big deal.
Right? It's amazing how they can sit there and verbally bash you and then say, but it's facts.
Yeah.
Well, it's not facts.
All right. So let's get a little bit of your background.
Okay.
Were you on the P&Z before?
No, I wasn't.
What was your involvement in city government prior to running for council, and why did you decide to do that?
Well, I moved back from Texas back in 23, and driving around town, the town I grew up in, I said, you know what? It can use some changes. It can use roads. It can use a better infrastructure.
Infrastructure, right.
And so I decided I was going to run for council. When I decided, I started attending council meetings to see what was happening.
How long ago was this?
This was right after I moved, so it was in 2023.
All right.
And so I put my name in the hat and said, I'm going to run. And
What kind of support did you get, Darren?
I'm sorry?
What kind of support?
Oh, I received a lot of support. I got to meet the council members that were there on the council at the time, friends and family that were here.
In the
Said, "Go for
election, what was the vote tally?
it." I came in second right behind Pat Boyle.
Okay.
He had 620. I had 612 votes.
Not bad for a first time.
Right.
All right. Your background, you were in the Army. Explain that.
Yes. After I left Benson, I joined the Army, did my 8 years, got to see the world. Went to Fort Carson first in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And then
What was your MOS?
I was a 19-kilo tanker,
Okay. All right.
or armored crewman specialist, but
Yeah.
tanker.
Did you drive?
I drove, I commanded, I fired. It was a great time.
You really enjoyed that, huh?
I did. Best job I ever had.
So, all right, you got out of the Army what year?
94.
Came back here.
No, I went back to California for a bit because my parents were out there,
Uh-huh.
and I wanted to stay close because they were getting elderly.
All right.
And then I got married, and we decided to move to Texas. So I stayed out there for 10 years, and then I said, no, I need to come back home.
So you feel like you're committed to this community.
Absolutely.
Would you approve, although you can't approve or disapprove at this point, you cannot, by law, interfere with the process at this point. You can listen to people, express your concern, but are you concerned that this plan is going to do what some say it's going to do? For instance, a 20-mile radius, everyone's going to be walking around breathing in aluminum dust.
No, I don't believe that's going to occur.
So tell me why.
Again, I have to be very specific about what I say.
Well, but you've looked. You can at least say that you've looked at the figures. You don't think that's going to happen,
Right. We're talking the possibility of something like that occurring. But with EPA standards and ADEQ, we understand that those risks are minimized. Safety issues are put in place, so if anything was to occur, it wouldn't be a natural disaster, as some are saying. I do know that the plant offers a lot of good jobs, an opportunity.
As we speak, they had a job fair Saturday and Sunday, and literally hundreds of people showed up.
Yes.
So,
yes, it was packed. I drove by the school, and it was the parking lots were packed, and I'm glad to see that, because I'm hoping that a lot of people here are going to have the employment that they need to take care of their families.
let's look at that real quickly. From what I understand and what I've read and what I've looked at in some actual company literature, all right, people say, well, they're lying, but the average starting salary is going to be $50,000 and above, and there will be a lot of positions that are going to be $100,000 and above.
Correct.
And this is 90 to 100 jobs. Now, I've seen people who tried to minimize that, but that is a heck of a lot of good-paying jobs for people who are going to be in this community.
Right. I've seen on social media people saying, well, Benson's only good for entry-level jobs. People around here.
Right.
I'd like to differ that.
The other thing that, and this, I can venture into this, and this is one of my beefs. People say, well, it's got this small town feel, and we want to keep that, and no one has the right to come in and disrupt it. And to which I say, look, I was born here. The library, when I was born, we were living on a farm near St. David. You don't get much more native than that.
Right.
All right. And I love this community. I wanted to see it grow properly with regulated growth, and that's happening here. ADQ and ADWR, and I'm just going to say this right now, they're going to be monitoring this plant extremely closely, and if the plant is in violation, it'll be shut down. It'll have to stop operations at least temporarily, while the issue's taken care of. And ADEQ and ADWR are two state agencies that, frankly, are not terribly friendly when it comes to industrial plants. I mean, they make sure that because I worked at Arizona Electric Power Co-op, constant monitoring by these state agencies, and, you have to toe the line or you're fined or you have to shut down operations temporarily. And that's what is lost in this debate. These regulatory agencies are tasked with making sure that these entities are not dangerous to us. I, for one, because of my experience with them, have faith that they'll do that. Now, have you had any contact with either of the state agencies?
I did attend the hearing when ADEQ came in to talk about when they had their town hall.
Right.
And so I was listening to what they were saying, and it was to a point where when they started disputing the figures that this other group we're talking about, they got pushback. And on social media, they got a lot of pushback.
Yeah, well, they were called names, and people were saying the agencies are on the payroll and all that crap, frankly, which is just crap.
Oh, now, to clarify, I was standing at the doorway next to the police officers that were there and listening from afar.
Well, I'm glad you were by the police officers, because things, there's no civil debate.
Right.
By the way, I said in December, after a couple of interactions with the opposition, that I wasn't going to pay attention to them anymore. So I don't want this interview to be construed as me paying attention to them.
Okay.
As of January 1, I quit reading any of their posts. I quit caring what they think. They lost all credibility. And that's all I'll say to that, because I said I didn't give a rat's ass what they had to say anymore, and I still feel that way.
I don't blame you. And that on that reasoning, that was also a reason why I didn't respond to some of the emails. Because if I did bring something that differed from their opinion, then they can misconstrue that and take it and run with it their own way. So that was the second reason why I didn't be transparent as much.
Is there anything we haven't covered that you want to cover?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'd like to talk to our residents here. When I first ran for city council, it was for the right reasons. It was to make Benson better. However, these recall candidates, they have one thing in mind. They want to stop ADI. They keep referring to Gila Bend and all that, but Gila Bend has its own issues with this. So I'm here to support the people of Benson. They say I'm not a representative. I am Benson. I'm not just a representative. So this is my home. I want to see the best for that. I'm not here to on my own personal agenda like these other candidates are.
Well, let me ask, what are you hearing from your constituents? Are they opposed? Are they opposed for the most part, in favor for the most part, or don't know?
No, they're in favor. The people I've talked to, just randomly, they'd come up to me, at the store. Mm-hmm. I'd be after a city council meeting. I'd go get something, at the store. My council member shirt would be on.
Yeah.
And people would come up to me and they would tell me, yeah, we're in support of ADI. We need the economic growth here.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to add? Because I think we've covered the ground.
I feel good about this. I think we're good.
All right. Darren Hayes, I tell you what, thank you for sticking in there. You're adamant. You're not going to back down.
Correct.
Going to stay on the council, come recall or whatever.
Yes.
I would encourage you to do one thing, that is to reach out to ADI and tell them you want to be in the loop on what's happening so that when your constituents ask you, you can tell them, hey, this is where they're at. Yeah, this is where they're at in their construction. This is what they're doing as far as controlling emissions and monitoring everything else.
Well, I am aware of what they're doing to control emissions, and I wish I could talk about that.
No, I understand.
But so I'm in the loop as far as that. But as far as groundbreaking and how far they along with building the plant, I've only drove by and checked it out myself, so I couldn't tell you.
All I'm saying is open up a line of communication with management there.
Will do.
Because your constituents don't have that luxury, probably don't have the time to do it, and you can be the one who channels that information.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
All right. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this episode of the Southwest Center Podcast. My guest, Darren Hayes, first term city councilman, 1 year on the council, and he's been targeted by the opposition pretty strongly because he is the only one who has really responded to requests for interviews from the media. And there's some good reasons why he can't go into more detail, which have to do with the lawsuit that the opposition has filed against the city. Mm-hmm. And we'll just leave it at that. Thanks for joining us. Catch you next time.